welcome to Board Game Homies, where a group of friends play, review, and share about all things board games. Sitting around the table today are
Reed,
Becky,
Gillian,
and I'm Angela. Today we're talking about Root, aka this isn't a game, it's a lifestyle. But first, what games are bringing you joy?
seeing as that I have self-proclaimed this as Year of the Space Game, I recently purchased Moon Colony Bloodbath, which looks to be a very campy tableau building and also described as tableau destroying game where you are building moon colonies where sure to be you will be destroyed. And I've heard it is very difficult. I don't know that much about the gameplay, but I love the art. It is very campy. It looks kind of like an 80s horror movie, and I'm very excited to bring it to the table.
So you said difficult. Is it co-op or is it competitive?
It's competitive, but I think you share some elements of the tableau building, but I actually don't know that much about it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about the game. I just looked at the photo and I didn't jive with the art style, but I have seen it pop up on social media and people are talking about it right now. So I'm interested to try it.
I was fascinated. This was the space game you went with. It's campy. I love the cover. It's very retro, futuristic kind of look. But if I was going to bet on your first space game this year, I kind of thought it was going to be Shackleton Base, which is a much more dry-looking kind of game. And so I weirdly am very excited for this strange adventure we're going to go on to robots killing everything.
What are you saying about Reed?
That she loves this
dry
space game?
I love a space game.
Yeah, so I just was like, it's a space game that has good reviews. Reed will probably buy it.
Shackleton Base.
Yeah, I haven't given up on that. You might still buy it.
Well,
You
generally, as Gillian probably is foreshadowing here, I do tend to buy games that have been well vetted by Gillian and Angela, and this was me going out on a limb and buying a game that nobody else had.
Your
thunder.
Your value add to this group, Reed. Way to buy a game to help build our collection.
you're doing more than I am, Reed.
Yeah, Becky does not
Becky's
pull her
just
weight.
culling things.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get rid of games.
She gets mad when new boxes arrive every day to this house.
It's not every day.
It's like every other day.
Maybe this week. Speaking of Year of the Space Game, the game that's bringing me joy is one I haven't tabled yet, but it is one that arrived in one of the several boxes the past week. And that is The Search for Planet X. It is a deduction game where you are trying to figure out, work your way through a puzzle and kind of reach a conclusion before anybody else does. It's a game that collectively the Board Game Homies haven't really played before, aside from Hooky, which we played somewhat recently, but that was more of a direct interaction with other people to try to figure out what cards they had or what they had hidden, essentially. In The Search for Planet X, it's an app-driven deduction game. So players will load up the code for the game, and they're going to use that to, on their turn, figure out what they want to try to research or figure out. And on their little tableau, the little paper, they're going to go ahead and figure out, okay, well, I know this comet here, so the planet can't be here. And try to figure out where this thing is in the cosmos. And it's a game that was very well reviewed when it first came out, and I've been very interested in it for a long time. And it was on sale, I think, on Game Nerds, and so I decided to just go for it. And so I took the plunge, and am excited to search for Planet X.
How campy is it?
Not at all. But I will say I have missed Alchemists a bit. That's another deduction game that Becky and I used to own. It was very involved, though. It wasn't just deduction. It was also worker placement and resource gathering and stuff. And it was a pretty heavy game. But I'm excited to go just to a pure deduction game that doesn't have the other kind of stuff. And so I think it's a much faster playing game than Alchemists was.
This might be an inside thought, but I saw this game at the game store the other day and just assumed that it was an expansion for Planet Unknown. And when I saw that over there, I thought the same thing. So glad to know it's a different game and that we will be playing it soon.
To be fair, Reed, they both seem like the same box with planets.
Some might say space even.
Yeah. Space nautical games. Ships in space.
Okay, so they're spaceships, just an extension of nautical ships.
Oh my god, the connections.
It's the year of the ship.
Not for me. My joy game is Neko Syndicate, which I backed on Kickstarter. I didn't know much about this. It's from Danny Garcia, and they say that it's route building meets engine building meets pick up and deliver with simultaneous play. And the cover is just a bunch of cats who are kind of gangsters. I know nothing about it, but I'm kind of excited to play it, and everything that I love about a Kickstarter is suddenly a game gets delivered, and they're giving us updates about it. I also snagged another Trick Taker because they were kind of launching all of these games together, which is a game called Kabuki Tricks, which has cute little dogs on the cover, and anytime you can get me into a must-follow trick taking with cute little dog art, like, I'm here for it. So I actually have a pair of games that I'm excited for from this one Kickstarter that nobody's heard of.
I've been thinking a lot about Joyride. It's been on our shelf for quite a while, and I really want to play this game, though I'm nervous because we all really like Thunder Road Vendetta, and what if it's not as good? Or what if it's better? That could be just as bad. I don't know.
I'm going to say that maybe there's room for more than one racing game.
On the shelf and in our hearts?
No, I think that's a lie, Reed. Don't give them false hope. I have the same worry, Becky. Like, what if we liked Thunder Road more than Turbo or Joyride more than... Look, it's a hot mess. Also, that's not the only racing game you own.
Well,
yeah, Camel Up.
And when you mention Camel Up, Reed spirals out of control.
no, I was going to say, I also own a racing game that we haven't gotten to the table yet.
Oh, no.
Fast and the Furious Heist.
I thought you were going to say Monopoly. Because you race around the board, Reed. Wow, did you never put that together?
I wouldn't call it a racing game.
Well, you want to get to go first.
Well, let's play it and find out.
I'd rather play Joyride.
I'm really excited to play Joyride as well. It's been on our shelf for the better part of 4 months at this point. And just haven't gotten to the table for no particular reason other than other games have taken precedence.
My favorite thing to do when I come over to this house is burst through the door, tell the dog to stop barking at me, and then go, Gillian, are you buying this game? And then fill in the blank. And then it's usually because I'm just about to purchase it, but I need to do the double check. And he goes, oh, I bought it last week. And that's exactly what happened with Joyride. And I was like, gosh darn it. But then it's frustrating because then we don't play it. And I was like, if it was my house, we'd have played it
2 months from now.
2 months from now instead of 8 months from now.
We gotta work on our timelines.
Gosh golly.
I know. Speaking of race games, I had to get a new one that I'm excited to play. Gravwell.
We were actually eyeing that and wondering what that was.
The whole premise is you're trying to escape a black hole, and you're all racing along the same track, and you're playing cards to basically move ahead from people or pull them back towards the black hole and jump over them. So you're basically like working against them to like pull them back and push yourself ahead and try to get to the exit and escape the black hole.
Sounds like a game Becky can be really mean when playing.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Wow, I'm kind of here for that game. The cover is nothing to look at per se. It's very digitalized art, but there's so many racy, spacey games now. Race, space, boats, water games.
Ship the game.
Space-based.
Transportation.
Wow.
Root, published in 2018, plays 2 to 4 players. It's designed by Cole Worley, and the art is by Kyle Farron. It's published by Leader Games, and it costs $60 American dollars. The expansions, of which there are many, retail for about $40 each. Gillian, how do we play Root?
Root is a game of adventure and war in which players take on the role of unique factions vying for control over the wilderness, or the woodland in kind of the base game sense. Each player's faction has unique capabilities that allow them to do different things. It's highly asymmetric. And in the game, you're trying to score 30 points and get victory through controlling the woodland. Each faction scores in different ways, be it the Eyrie, who scores based on the number of roosts that they have, or the Marquise, who scores based on the number of buildings that they've constructed, or the Woodland Alliance, who is there to essentially sabotage things by creating unrest, or the vagabond, who is essentially just trying to be a trader of goods and try to get things into their resource pool to actually get more actions. So each faction scores differently throughout the game, making it highly asymmetric. But the end goal is the same for each, get to 30 points, and you are the controller of the woodland. The base game comes with 4 factions, and with the 3 existing expansions, that goes up to 10 different factions. So there is a lot of capabilities of creating very asymmetric, unique experiences with all the different abilities that the factions have. In the base game of Root, you can play 2 to 4 players. With the expansions, the Riverfolk expansion particularly, you can play from 1 to 6 players with a large map. It's very dense. So the differences between each of the unique factions create a level of interaction and replayability that creates unique games from play to play. Alongside the unique factions and the capabilities that they have, players will be drawing from a common deck of cards that will grant the ability to craft items that will go into a crafted item pool on their player board, potentially, depending on the faction you are, which will allow you to trade potentially with the vagabond if they're in play to get benefits in different ways. The cards will also allow you to ambush players if they say attack you, or do a variety of other things throughout the game. In addition to getting to 30 points, there is an alternative way to win, and that's through getting the dominance card. And so that allows you, if you decide to play it on your turn, you will scrap all the points you scored up until that point. You need to have 10 points in order to play the dominance card. But once you play it, you go to 0, you take your scoring marker off of the victory point track, and your only way to win is through dominance of whatever's stated on the card. And that consists of controlling clearings of particular types. 3 clearings, for instance, at the start of your turn. It's a very hard thing to do, but it could be your path to victory. In order to play cards, you have to have control of different clearings on the board that match the symbols on the card. So there is the restriction there. So get the 30 victory points or get dominance over different clearings and you win the game.
This game is so stinking cute. I love it so much, and I think it's a huge reason why it's such a popular game.
Yeah, Kyle Farron's artwork does wonders for the game, and just the art on the cards and the player pieces are just outstanding.
There's so much intentionality that goes into games that Cole Worley does, and that's seen here through the Leader Games production. What I find fascinating about the way that they did the look of this game is the juxtaposition between how cute it is, but how absolutely vicious it is. And so when you look at something like Blood Rage, where there's beefy Vikings trying to like beat each other down, which is like, reads like, this doesn't feel like Blood Rage, but I like Blood Rage too. You're like, cool, Viking smash, kill, go to Valhalla. Here, you're like, it's a bird and a cat and they're friends. No, they're enemies. So I love this juxtaposition of adorable art with cruelty.
Becky, this is an animal game that you like.
I do really like this game. The animals are so cute, and I get to be the cute animal. I think that's different than all the other animal games I don't like, apparently. Like the raccoon, the vagabond, so cute.
You do embody that very well. It carries a knife.
Mine's plastic.
Another component feature that I enjoy is the screen printed meeples. when you're just looking at your field of pieces, the expression that is done through Kyle Farron's art on just these like screen printed meeples is so great. And I know that's not cheap to be able to do, but it brings such a nice element of seeing them. And certainly with all the expansions, you're like, oh my God, they just keep getting cuter and cuter. But when you're looking at this field and you're thinking about burning down buildings and destroying life, and then you're like, it's a mouse though, right? I think the screen printed meeples just add so much character to the board.
The only thing that I struggle with on the board are the clearings. The bunnies and the mice, I always get them confused and say the wrong thing. Or maybe I just call them both mice. I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but I'm always saying the wrong thing. They're very similar shaped. The ears are a little bit different and the colors are similar. And the fox symbol is very different. It's got a pointy face and it's bright red, so that one stands out pretty well. Gillian did get an accessory for it that has 3D printed clearings that we've been using on the board, and I think that really helps to know which clearing is what. But that's the only thing I've ever had issues with in this game.
Yeah, the cards are kind of just as well done as the rest of the game. Like, I could wax poetically about the thought that goes into the cards that are made, and from my obsession now learning about Cole, how much he designs those just to get them available for play testing and the iterations that they go through, it's pretty clear what the cost is for things. Although I think at times I see one symbol and then see how many clearings you have to have, and I'm like, wait, that's not right in my brain. But the card art is wonderful. The symbology is pretty straightforward, if you can tell what the difference of them are, and I agree it does get a little confusing in my brain sometimes. But yeah, just overall, the production for me is out of this world.
This is one of the first asymmetric games that we've played that's been this dramatically asymmetric. And that is something that required a lot of advance prep for this. I think the first time that we played this was as a group. Becky and Gillian had played it previously, but the first time we played it was in August, and we each really spent time learning our different factions, and that was a pretty significant investment. We played it 3 times kind of back to back, which was nice to help cement it into our brains, and then unfortunately didn't pick it up for another 8 months or so and had to kind of relearn some of it, especially because we were playing some of the newer factions.
I would say that came back fairly fast, though, the general rules for the the non-faction specific rules were fairly easy to grasp again. But yeah, the asymmetry is probably the greatest in any game I've played. Like, I haven't played a game with this amount of asymmetry that I can recall anyway. And so that does create quite an impediment to learning the game. It's just a lot to take in, and you're not learning one faction, you're also learning 3 other factions that are in the game, or hopefully learning them so you know how to counter their strategy fairly well. And so it's just a lot of overhead to really dive into the game for the first time. Once you kind of grasp the rules and get a few plays under your belt, I feel like it's easier to digest the new factions as they come in, because you understand the base mechanics and it's easier to deal with.
I think it's also deceptively cute. It is so cute that a lot of people probably see, oh, I would love to have this on my table, and then get it, and then immediately don't play it or don't play it again after doing it. I've talked to a few people who said that they just struggled so much because you almost need an experienced player to walk you through the factions if you're not going to put all that time in.
That is completely true, because the very first time Becky and I played was a cold play when it first came out. Nobody knew how to play. We were kind of learning in the moment. The worst, arguably in my opinion, the worst way to learn the game is no prep in advance. And we all really just struggled through the play, and so it was tough. And I remember walking away from that play just not very enthused about Root. And it took me several years to finally start getting the interest in playing it again, because it maintained its popularity for years. And so then that prompted me to buy it and play it with you all once we established the Board Game Homies and a consistent play group. So that was a great decision. I'm glad to hear Becky likes the game.
In that aspect, this game reminds me of Wingspan because new board gamers are so excited about Wingspan. It's beautiful. They've heard things about it and they want to play it. And it's not as approachable as some of the other beginner board games, even though it looks so inviting. And I think Root is exactly like that. There's a buzz about it. It is so cute, like I already said, and people just want to have that game and want to play it. And then I think they just get in over their heads unless they've been reading about it and then know like, oh, it's actually going to take a lot of investment of time, and not just for the one person who's teaching the rules, but like really everyone who's coming to the table.
There is a level. I played Molly House recently and my copy just delivered, which I'm excited about. And we were playing Arcs, and couple that with Root. I do think that I'm stupid sometimes when I play a Cole Whirly game, in that it doesn't follow mechanics that I think I'm traditionally used to. Not that that's a bad thing, but I appreciate the attention to how they can kind of overcome that. So with Root, it includes like these little field guides that you have and like a walkthrough, and the rule book is the perfect size. And there are these pieces that help get you there. When I played the Marquise again, I hadn't played it in a while, but just coming back to it and being able to look at the player guide and be like, oh yeah, that's right. I didn't feel like there was too much of a drop off once I had learned Affection. And so whilst I do feel a little dumb playing whirly games, I don't know, I kind of like it. It's this level of theme that through all the games that we've played by his design is the fun piece for me, right? It's like he builds tension in really interesting ways. And when you look at this game, we just played and I was the Marquise, and Becky looked at the board and when you play the Marquise de Cat, you get to put one of your cat meeples in every single clearing. And so you look at the board and you're like, holy crud, there are cats everywhere. And it's this invitation in a way to start a fight, right? You're like, I'm going to beat you up. Or you play a different faction that's based on who your leader might be. And it's like, guys, I can't help with who my leader is. I have to punch you or else my leader gets disposed, right? And I love that tension he creates from the very moment you start looking at that game.
I also think that in playing Arcs, it did feel very familiar in this interesting aspect of you could be 10, 12 points behind and it's still anybody's game, even though you're only trying to get to a very limited number of points. In Root, it's 30. I'm not sure what it is in Arcs, but it's not that much different than that. And that creates so much tension during the second half of the game that is really exciting, and you don't feel like you're out of it. Like, even if you're dramatically behind, there are ways to catch up.
Yeah, and I enjoy the different play styles that the factions provide. I've only played 3 of the factions at this point, I think, but all of them have been a unique experience. But I will say, like, some of them lend themselves better to that kind of surge in points than others. For instance, the Lord of Hundreds that I played most recently, they potentially get consistent points, but they can't do a surge in points like, say, the Woodland Alliance or the Vagabond. And so it is harder with some factions to kind of surge and catch up without smashing down the competition.
Though I definitely think as you're seeing one player get really far ahead, then it does motivate the other 3 players to then start going after them. But then you're also opening yourself up to
retaliation.
Getting stomped on.
Yeah.
Retaliation.
I definitely think that when you surge ahead, you have a target on you, and then everybody goes and against the common enemy. And I think that is, while we play a lot of games that are competitive, this is the one where you actually you're literally picking fights across the board. Something that I also wanted to add about the asymmetry of the factions and having to learn it is that when you're all playing together and, collectively we've played this game, a number of times, but we're still all learning the factions and we haven't played them enough to know them, memorize them. And there is a lot of information that's easy to kind of gloss over, or there are so many different intricacies of how each play that it's hard to, I've just found that it's hard to kind of navigate as we're learning and trying to.
Yeah, I wasn't joking, even though I'm always joking about the Root is a lifestyle game. I think if you are a Root head, which is a term I just made up, which for me is people who are obsessed with Root, and you have a regular play group who has all of the different factions, I think it really benefits from digging in and learning one really well. Like, I don't think I have unlocked any sort of strategies. I'm still playing by the seat of my pants. And unfortunately, I think that makes it hard where the game's not going to come to the table so often that you get to dig in and play that strategy. And there's excitement from the expansions where you're like, I want to be this new character, which is great. And you may win the game, but also it doesn't allow you the flexibility to grow and develop if we just keep changing and we don't play the game as often. So I think it is a game that benefits from the same group who understands how to play, who wants to dig in a few times a month and get it played. And I don't know if that's us. And so sometimes Root makes me sad because I would want to play it more regularly, and I just know that we won't play it as often.
We could always try and treat it like a legacy game. Not legacy, or like a campaign game where we make ourselves play it for fun. It's not the right word, but just try and schedule like a few months where we're really gonna commit to it.
That makes me sad as well, because I would like to play this game more, and I definitely want to play the same faction multiple times to get there, but I am also very excited to try the other factions, and just seeing Reed convert people to cults, I'm like, I want to do that. And so I want to play the lizard cult and try that out.
Come to the Dragon God side.
I suggested this after our last game, but I think it would be really interesting to keep the same 4 factions, but then swap players of the factions, so we'll have a better understanding because we've actually played them as we see them around the table, and then do that a couple of times. I think that would be a fun way to go about it.
Yeah, this game seems to benefit, like after the play that we had just a few days ago, I was like, I just want to play this right after we had already played it. And I think that would have been really fun. And to be fair, I would have been fine playing the Marquis again. There's something comforting about knowing and then trying new things within it. And when you play with the same game group, I think you'll start to see tendencies that they have. Like, I find myself to be a very cautious, defensive player in this game. So even though I have a very aggressive faction, I don't use it like that. And so I'd like to be bold and be like, well, I'm going to try crafting more, or I'm going to try just barging into every place and setting it all on fire to see if I can just hurry up and score 30 freaking points. So I do think that would benefit, like, let's just mark out a day and say we're playing Root all day.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that you're a defensive player, because I think back to our play where you tried the Eyrie, and it was so funny because I played the Eyrie prior to that, so I was familiar with them. But you were just very hesitant to add 2 cards into your tableau because you didn't want to go into turmoil. And I think you made it the whole game without going to turmoil, but at the expense of not really expanding all that much. And so I found that so interesting, whereas me, I think I went into turmoil 3 times in my play because I was trying to expand so aggressively.
This game is very whimsical, and I think part of the whimsy is how cute it is, and then also the fun aspects of embodying the characters. Becky notoriously has played the Vagabond and the Riverfolk, and I've played Woodland Alliance and the Lizard Cult, and some of these things are just so fun. Angela, when she sets up all of her little cats, they're all facing us and like glaring at us, and there's just something that's so fun about that.
There definitely are social aspects to this game, and I think I think that with people not necessarily understanding all of the factions either, like the social aspect helps with that. Like, as a Riverfolk, I was constantly like, hey, remember, you can give me people and you can have one of these really cool cards. Don't forget, these are awesome. I made this just for you. I'll give it back. So it really benefited me to be able to keep reminding you, like, hey, don't forget, this is what I do, and please give me your stuff.
I also loved it. I loved you playing that faction because I think you've embodied both of the factions I've seen you play really, really well. And there's nothing like an variable economic market that is not variable because it's just set by you, and us trying to haggle you down like 3, I'm not paying 3, and so next round you're like, it's 2 now, ooh, but it's only for your own evil aims. And then when we blew you up, you were like, I'm not giving you your pieces back. Dun, dun, dun. I was like, stop buying cards from her. She's evil. So it allows for a robust level of table talk. Just as you, like Reed said, embody those characters and find joy in it.
This is going to sound like a hot take, but this game kind of gives me Catan vibes. And it's not the gameplay, but the way like players feel about it. There's a cult following and you get an itch to play it. There's absolutely that social aspect to it. And like you're trying to convince your friends to help you because you need wood. Angela, Reed, Gillian. And then your friendships are ruined because no one will help you.
Yeah, actually, at first I was like, set you on fire. This game's like Catan. But actually, I think there's a part, and this speaks to the early plays we had, which was we had fallen really far behind, and Reed won like our first 3 games of it. And there was just a level of like, the negative side, which I also find in Catan, is that when you're really far back and it feels hopeless or somebody feels overpowered because they have the best spots or they had the best cards or something happened, it can lead to a level of frustration in a way. And I have felt that in the beginning when we started playing this game. And it could be because didn't know the factions well enough, didn't know how well that they played. Or it could just be that you want to be good at a game or you want to at least put on a showing and you're like, I am not scoring any points. And I think that you can have that same feeling in Catan where you're like, wow, I'm just really far behind. I hate this game. You flip it over and then you run out of the house. Like the same.
I absolutely felt that way when we played it on BGA recently.
Catan.
Yeah. But it just also seems like that game that, you're going to be like, oh, I really want to play Root. Like, Root's the only game that's going to scratch that itch, or just the group. Like, there's some groups who will only play Catan, and I think that's the same with Root, too. They just get so invested in it and their experience playing both of those games.
So what does it say about Root when you only want to play Catan once a year?
No, okay, I said vibes. They gave me the vibes.
Vibes. It's all vibes, Gillian.
I do find the battle mechanic interesting, and I'm curious to hear what you all think about it with the dice.
Combat in this game involves rolling 2 d12. So the attacker or the aggressor in combat rolls both dice. And the attacker will get the higher value that's rolled, and the defender will get the lower value that's rolled. And for instance, if I'm the attacker and I roll a 3 for myself and I roll a 0 for Reed, that means that Reed would deal 0 hits to me. Meanwhile, I would do up to 3 hits. In order to deal those 3 hits, I have to have at least 3 pieces in that combat in order to deal those 3 attacks or those 3 hits. And you just remove pieces off the board equivalent to whatever you rolled. And likewise, if the defender rolls above a 0, they take pieces from you. And in combat, if you defeat the warriors that are there and you have additional points to spend, you can remove tokens, you can remove buildings. And if you remove buildings and tokens, you'll score victory points as well. And so combat is very much dice driven, and it's very simplistic in that you just roll the dice and you exchange blows, essentially. But I like that simplicity in this game compared to, say, Blood Rage, which I also really like, but it's different in that you don't roll dice, but you do look at the unit values that you have in that combat, and you have secret cards that you could potentially play to augment your combat strength. And so it's a card-driven combat versus dice-driven combat. I like both, but the simplicity in Root, I think, really lends itself well to the gameplay.
I appreciate you talking through that because I've often wondered why the attacker rolls both dice, but it is clear now that the higher dice always goes to the attacker and the lower dice goes to the defender. Also, winning the first 3 games, I don't know if I battled at all. I maybe battled once or twice, but that's that's definitely not how I played.
It's because you're the insurgents. That's why.
And the vagabond. Vagabond doesn't battle, do they?
They could stab people occasionally.
Yeah, they can battle, but they do it a little bit differently with having to flip their resources over.
Yeah, it could be very bad for the vagabond because then those are their actions that they have to then spend a whole turn refreshing potentially.
Yeah, and the lizard cult, which is the other one that I've played, is able to battle. But another thing that they can do is they can just go in birdsong and do some actions and do it without battling, like take some pretty hefty actions. And so that's just, I think I would be interested in playing in a faction that actually did battle more.
Yeah, I like the combat system for, like Gillian said, the simplicity of it. You roll 2 dice. I didn't love that you were the Lord of Hundreds and you were like, the first hit doesn't count. And I was like, so angry about it. And because I think the Marquis takes a lot of, is a fighting kind of faction, I love having like a surprise defense card.
The ambush cards.
An ambush card always in my hand, because when you play it, the attacker immediately loses 2 of their warriors. And I'm like, yes, I need to knock down the number of people invading, because then that reduces the number of hits that I'm going to take. So I think there's just something, it's probably a percentage based on 0, 1, 2, or 3, but it actually means you can go in, start a fight, and then both factions are still sitting in that clearing. Like, are you going to keep going on your next turn? Are they going to strike back? And there's this level of like, I'm going to beat you up until you're gone because I need this clearing. Or I'm just coming in because I want to burn down your buildings, which give me points. So there's a lot of different kind of impetus to attack at different times for different reasons. I think that's fun. It's more than just, I punch you. It's like, I punch you, but I really don't care because I'm actually just trying to control the clearing so I can get 3 steps ahead of you because I'm trying to destroy Becky.
Yeah, and also talking about controlling clearings, that's very vital for movement in the board, because you cannot move to a clearing unless you control either the clearing you're coming from or the clearing you're going to. And so just moving your army into a space and gaining control of that clearing, which means you have more pieces than the other player does, could prevent them from really moving around on the board. And so that could be its own strategy, not necessarily attacking, but just preventing movement.
Yeah, and controlling clearings, like you said, is also how you play cards. So in the last game we played, I had cards I wanted to play, but I didn't control enough of the type of clearing. And then I thought I had it, and I didn't, which means it took me another 2 turns to control a clearing, to play a card that would have crafted me an item that would have given me the 3 points to beat Becky. And she won it on the turn before it got to me. And I was like, son of a gun. Robbed of my 1 victory.
I just had the realization, save for the 3 very severely imbalanced 3-player game we had, where there was only 1 aggressive faction, all of the other games we played have been won by the insurgent factions. None of the aggressive factions have won.
Oh, interesting.
Dun, dun, dun. Data.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because you won as the Lord of Hundreds.
Yeah, but that was the 3-player game, and that was very imbalanced. So yeah, it's interesting that the insurgent factions have won all of our games.
Reed won as the vagabond.
Which is an insurgent faction.
Oh,
so I'm talking about
the
the combat-driven, like the Marquise de Cat, the Eyrie, and the Lord of Hundreds. Those are all very aggressive factions that want combat.
Well, again, usually Gillian and I beat each other
That's
up.
True.
And
That's
then
true.
it paves the way for others, which is exactly what happened in ARCs and often happens in our other games as we get pissy, kill each other, and then realize we're losing and go, gosh golly.
This last game, I kept trying to convince you to attack Becky, who was like establishing trading posts all over the place.
She was. It actually really worked out for me because she established something. I was like, I've gotten enough from you. Time to destroy your stuff. It gave me a lot of points to destroy her stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, it was very irritating.
It was great.
But you made the move too late because Becky won.
Yeah, it was 1 turn too late.
You were the only one.
Killing you?
Yeah.
Huh, weird.
I was killing you too.
Not as much as Angela.
Yeah.
I was just letting you borrow my lizard people. Maybe too many of them.
No, you still had so many. We were best friends.
She forces her friendship on you.
She also destroyed my gardens, didn't you?
No.
Okay.
No, she did.
No, I didn't do gardens.
did.
Nope.
With so much destruction and deceit. Do you guys know this game was originally going to be called Rule?
Oh, that's dumb.
Wow.
That's what Cole said. I've been watching
It's
a lot
not
of...
as cute.
Well, yeah. I also don't, I think as he said, like the way it rolls off the tongue. So I think Root had a lot more forest ties and things like that. But
I mean, it is funny because I'm like, I guess it's not like Rule makes sense thematically what it is, but Root is just cuter.
So cute.
yeah, I love that his titles of a lot of his games are only 4 letters. So, yeah.
I
think
was
about
like,
that.
Arcs is 3. What are you talking about? But then I recount. We did mention this before, but I'm just going to say that the first times that we played with like cat ears, raccoon ears, funny woodland hat, and a plastic knife that Becky still wields sometime. And it was just really fun.
That was all thanks to you, Reed. Thanks for really curating that experience for us.
Yeah, I think it's very fitting considering how it seems like Cole Worley designs his games with like the want of what is the feeling that's driving you. And part of Root was, you know, a nod to the coin games, the counterinsurgent war games that are out there. But I also think that there is a level of conversation when you're just being silly about it. Like it's murderous silly when you're wearing cat ears. And I think that embraces it. And I appreciate that when we came up to play, there were ears and a knife and I don't know, just kind of a whimsy to it. This game, I think you said it had whimsy. I was like, I don't know if there's whimsy or it's just murder, but thematically, the joy that you get of like table talking somebody and getting frustrated and Reed just constantly yelling, come to the lizard god, come to the lizard god.
It's the dragon god.
Oh, whatever it is. I don't know. I didn't convert.
I think that's blasphemy.
I kept my worship of the nothing.
I also,
Factories, that's what you kept your worship on.
yeah, capitalism.
Capitalism.
No!
It's about right if you think about it.
I'm just going to add that I love how expressive the meeples are. And we have this amazing, probably overwhelming group chat. And the meeples are one of the things that we often send to each other.
Yeah, you made them into stickers. And so instead of emojis, they're just woodland meeples find their way into our chat.
The meeples and the drawings on the cards are so perfect for stickers on iPhones. Highly recommend.
You know, I'm going to ask the question I always ask, but I think this one is hard. Who do you recommend this game for?
That is a very tough question, and it all just harkens back to the complexity surrounding the asymmetry that's embedded in the game. And I think a fairly advanced board gamer would get a lot of enjoyment out of it and wouldn't have too much trouble. So yeah, I would say somebody that's fairly well along in their exposure to board games would probably take to this pretty well, but they would have to have some like familiarity, I think, with mechanisms and whatnot, or just play with other experienced players that can help kind of teach you the game as you play, so that you really only need to focus on your single faction at the beginning, and they can talk you through everything else that's going on. So yeah, that's kind of what I would recommend.
When I was first learning how to play, I listened to a lot of podcasts about Root. And people who had played it said that, you know, they played it about 6 times and really started to understand, and they wouldn't play this with new players. They would want to play it with people who had played before, or they would just have the experience of somebody needs to be the teacher and know all the factions and have a learning game with everyone. And that's why I think it probably wouldn't get to the table. I can see myself playing it with you all. I just don't know who else I would play it with unless they had already played it before.
I think now that we've taught it or learned it as a whole and we kind of talked through the rules, I think if there's just one new player, I think it would be doable. Even with more than one, it would be doable. It would just be a decent amount of overhead and a bit overwhelming potentially for those players if they hadn't looked into it at all beforehand.
I think about games that lead to other games. How do you get from Clank to Viticulture or everything in between? And this one's a hard one for me. I don't know what you play before Root to understand Root, or if you need to. Like, it's not worker placement, it's not a deck builder. The factions play so differently that I have a hard time thinking about, if you like this type of game, then you'll like Root. Like, what I can say is, if you like harassing others and finding unique ways to win and maybe being a little cutthroat about it, then this is a really good game for you. But the stuff you build is going to get destroyed, and that makes it a hard one. Like, it's not going to go into my collection. I would only play it with you guys. To teach the game seems really intense because you have to have a really good mastery. I couldn't teach this game right now. I'd have to do much more learning about all of the factions to feel like I could support anybody else in learning. Like, I don't know that Reed and I can sit down and just start playing a game without having to do like a good rules overhead and a review, or maybe watch a video. So yeah, this one's tough because I just don't know. If you like X, then you will like Root.
I would say if you like area control games, you might like Root. That said, it all depends on the faction that you're playing. Mm-hmm. If you're playing one of the militant factions, like the Marquise de Cat or the Eyrie, you might find enjoyment in it. I also think it depends on the type of games you play, because the Eyrie is very Euro-y. Like, the Eyrie faction is very Euro-y in that you're doing action programming. You're putting cards in there and you follow this very rigid process of like, oh, I have to do this first, and then I do this first, and then I have to do this, and if I can't, I fail and I restart. So it's very like Euro-y, whereas like the Vagabond is a lot more just fluid and trading and more so interacting, less combat. And then the Marquise de Cat is very much like, I'm going to build factories and then I'm going to smack your face. And so it's very much kind of the, like, just what your preferences in playstyle might inform what faction you might enjoy the most. But I would say, harkening back, it is probably like area control games might be the predecessor to really getting into Root.
Like you were explaining the different factions, I think that if you are excited to play Root, you're going to find a faction that will fit with your play style. Like, even though I like playing some mean games, I don't always love direct conflict, and so I definitely tend to go towards the characters that are not building a bunch of things that are going to be destroyed or have huge armies that are ready to attack people.
We play a lot of games that do have some level of asymmetry in their factions, like Barrage and Revive and some of the other games that we play where you do different things or approach things slightly different, but the actions are all similar. And the asymmetry in this game, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but for people who don't know that much about Root, it's like you're playing a different game. Like, you know, the cats are building and have certain actions related to that can be completely different than another faction. And so you have to approach the game differently depending on what faction you play. And there's not overlap other than the area control, as Gillian was saying.
Yeah, I think that leads to an incredible amount of replayability. Like, you guys bought a lot of different factions. Like, I don't know which ones you don't own yet.
You own all of them.
Gosh golly. But that's a lot of replayability. When I'm talking about, you could rotate the 4 base players and be really solid for like a year of play. I mean that fully, because it is, like you said, Reed, learning 4 different games. And I just don't know, maybe if you're a Cold Warley fan, you're like, this is definitely the game. And maybe this is the game that is the first one you play that tells you you're a Cold Warley fan. And I would say, I don't know if I love all of Cole's designs, but I really actually resonate with Root in a way that is getting more and more love for it the more and more I play it. And I think that's hard, right? Again, it goes back to, I don't know who to recommend this for, except for people who have a consistent game group who like kind of war games and wouldn't mind delving into all of these different aspects of strategy. And we don't know players like that, but they exist, right? There's lots of different wargaming players who play games, but it's a hard one. I think if you're really up to try a Warley game, this would be a good start, but know that you're going to have to invest some time in learning, especially if you're teaching your game group how to play.
Yeah, and I'm super glad we found this game and I forced you all to play it with me.
On your birthday.
Happy birthday, Gillian.
What?
Yay.
Where's my present?
What? Thank you for listening to Board Game Homies. Drop us a line on our Instagram, Blue Sky, or Board Game Geek account at Board Game Homies. Bye-bye.
No, you always
Are you
start
you're
off.
going to think about a different joy game? You should do Gentle Rain.
When she actually brought it home and handed it to me and said, "This is to go to fun again."
Becky!
You should mention that it's going to the for sale pile.
You're doing your part to spur a local economy.